If anybody doesn't know, from my viewers, there's these things called shows, there's festivals, there's agricultural events. If you're from England, the London Ideal Home Show, the Great Yorkshire Agricultural Show, in Australia, the Royal Shows. Here in Toronto, you have the CNE. What's the biggest one in America? The Minnesota State Fair?
Minnesota
State Fair. Larry King used to go there every year, live. Well, I worked in the events industry for many years. Home shows, car shows, boat shows, food shows, special interest shows,
Anything with the word show or fair or exhibition, it's an accumulation of lots of people. And what was your function at these shows?
Well, we worked weekends. I got into it straight into the army, the London Ideal Home Show. I worked in the back room, preparing all the stock. I really came into it quickly. I loved it, loved the industry. I started working in England selling the shammies. Shammies are like ShamWow for people. That commercial was really popular about 2008.
What's interesting about the ShamWow commercial, we were selling chamois for about 20 years before the ShamWow. And one day I'm sitting on the couch with my wife and we watched Vince with the ShamWow. And one line he said in his pitch, keep in mind we've been selling chamois for 20 years. Mm-hmm. He said, beware of imitations. And what a strong line, because the next time we were at shows, people were coming up to us, people who have been selling the chamois for 20 years, and people going, is this the ShamWow? And legally, we couldn't say yes because it wasn't. That was just a name. Mm. And he was selling the imitation. And I remember my wife saying to me, how can you do that? I go, it's brilliant. It's called distraction. Don't look at me, look over there.
Yeah, you didn't win any friends there. See, I started working the shows. I worked cashier, for Paula Weinberg, absolute legend. All those experiences helped me.
Yes.
I went back to England after a summer in Canada. See, Canadian shows, especially in the West, that's a tight-knit family, real tight-knit family. They some of them marry each other. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they're not brothers and sisters or cousins.
No. I'm sure somewhere that's happened, but not in our industry.
No.
But I came back. I came back to Canada. I'd worked the Stampede for a summer. I went to the P&E. My second summer, I came to Canada from England. Came back. I grew up here. I worked the chamois after that ShamWow ad, and I worked for Keith Hatton. And he said, you're coming back. You're going to work for me. I'm not going to hire Mike Wadham. I'm going to give it to you. And he's like, be ready to make 20, 30 grand this summer. And I was like, yeah, right. I've never seen 20, 30 grand in my life. He didn't know. Nobody knew. I didn't make 20, 30 grand over a summer. I made it in one show. A 22 years old boy who was Paula Weinberg's cashier the year before. Now I'm the second highest grossing pitchman as a kid, second only to my partner who'd been doing it for 20 years.
Amazing. And what show was that, the Stampede?
That was the Stampede 2008. And it was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Yes. And why was it the worst thing? I know why it was the best thing.
Yeah.
Why was it the worst thing?
Because I stopped learning. I thought I was getting all that money because I was smart.
Yes.
And that killed my learning growth. After not even 2 years in our industry, it killed my learning growth for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I didn't start learning again until I was 26, 27.
I think the ShamWow did that to a lot of people. Anybody that was on the ShamWow making unbelievable money didn't realize that it was because of the millions of dollars of free advertisement behind them. Yes, I understand.
Well, I followed that everywhere. It gave me all the things I never thought I would have in life. I went to Hawaii. I went to Mexico. I went to Panama. I went to live in Argentina for 5 months. I'm not going to work a shopping mall at Christmas. And make $400 a day? Are you kidding?
Yes.
No, I'll come back for the shows. Yeah, I was an arrogant little shit.
Yeah.
And there's different people in show business that I never knew existed because of the mindset I was in. I followed that to Australia. I worked in New Zealand. Then the TV ad came to Australia, and then I was very grateful to work in shopping malls for $500 a day.
Yes.
That product, shows in general, set my life, but that product, it gave me the ability to travel. I've done shows in Australia, New Zealand, and work in the show circuit of all those countries. So get to meet people like you, but in a different city every week, and we were all the same. We didn't mind working a little bit harder for a bit extra. And what's a weekend? Well, I loved it, I used it as a way to travel around the world. I spent 5 months in South Africa, working for the man who produces Sweeper, had his own show team. Back in England, back here, I kind of had a crash in my life around 26. I'm in a 12-step program. I haven't had a drink or a drug since I was 26. But coming back into shows, I eventually started doing it for myself after a long time. And then I started becoming the employer, the promoter, you call them here. So I started had to learn a new thing, all the work that goes on behind actually getting to the show. This business has been fantastic to me with hurdles, but when I got clean off drink and drugs, it introduced me to people that they didn't want me to know they existed before that, because there's that crowd in the shows too, that spend too long in the pub. For you and Norma, for example, when I moved back to England and started a business, and I worked hard with a different aspect, and slowly I built a respect. Like I'm not blowing sunshine up you, but here in Canada, you're a legend in our industry. Bob King's a legend in our industry. There's some people who are a legend in their own mind, but I came to work a show for you once here, after 2-3 years back in England doing good, and it was kind of a kick in the teeth because I realized walking around seeing all the people I knew, I wasn't held in that high regard and respect as I was in England after I'd changed in life, and I realized that this business is all about relationships, not only with the public, because some people think most of our products are really good because big corporations can afford customer service and sell shitty products. If you sell a shitty product, who's getting the phone call on a Monday? You or Norma.
Yes.
So there's actually a lot of integrity in our industry. If you want
Totally.
to, you just don't want to get in. You want to avoid headaches.
Yes.
But I learned that. I had a great life, a great business, and friends and family. It's a real pleasure for me. You seen me when I was younger.
Yes.
And you see me now. You're having me in your home now.
Yes.
You don't invite everyone in your home.
You would not have been allowed in my home when you were younger.
It is what it is.
But again, rear view mirror.
Yeah.
But again, so watching what you've done now, not just in Ukraine, when you were in England, when you were putting together, you and I chatted over the time.
Yes.
You sent me one of my favorite gifts ever. I received a tribble. And if we have any Star Trek fans out there, tribbles are these little furry creatures that when you pet them, they make that sound. They multiply like crazy. Brent, you sent me one of these, and to this day, it's in my office. It's sound activated or vibration. So if it's on my lap and I'm petting it, it'll go. So it's like having a little kitty cat. But if somebody laughs too loud or it goes off, and people go, "What is that?" And I'll just, that's a tribble.
A tribble.
And again, for those who are in the know, one of the best gifts you ever sent me.
Well, I learned something. I learned it in shows, not in the army, because I think shows is what prepared me for what everyone else knows me for, Ukraine. I learned that a lot of life is about gestures for friendships, and if they're worth maintaining, maybe if you don't see somebody every few years, you should, every so often, you should do something, like every 1 year, 5 years, whatever. But people don't forget gestures. We went through Corona in our industry. I didn't have the biggest business in the world, but I was successful. About a £500,000 turnover a year. and I learned how to hold on to money. I didn't know how to do that before for cash flow reasons and to run a business and pay my bills. I wasn't prepared for Corona. I lost about half of my deposits for the year. Two of my work vans got stolen a month before Corona. But you know yourself, as long as the cash flow keeps going, the business will survive. Corona took me out completely.
Yes.
I must say this. I never worked a normal job outside of the army, show business. I had for 2 years, I was living in Sweden right during Corona. I shut down my business. I worked a normal job twice. And I got to be honest with you, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. There's some great people there, but the one common thing, I was in a workplace of 50 people, only 5 of them, and it was a job everybody hated for low pay, only 5 out of the 50 were studying something or learning the language of Sweden to get out of it. And that's one thing that a good showman who runs his business, if he has to work 20 hours a day to get, because we learned that in our industry, we don't decide when the product stops and the money stops, the public does.
Yes.
So when you have opportunities, you have to take them.
And that's why it's very important not to fall in love with your product.
And yourself.
And yourself, because one day that product will eventually let you down, and how long you hang on to it for could cripple you.
That's true. That's true. I've learned this. Why I went to the war is a different story altogether. But I didn't realize this till I got back here with you and Norma, because I didn't think about it. I just did what came natural to me. I'm a combat medic, and I thought I didn't have social media because I didn't like how people were doing all this self-promotion, and some of them were telling the truth or not. But 2 months into the war, I had to create social media because I only went with $7,000. I'm going to go broke. We needed helmets. We needed one thing I've learned. I do think I have this as an advantage. It was better part of 15 years of my life being in show business. What are you willing to do to make things work? Anything. I'm willing to do anything to make it work. I must say, probably my biggest contribution to Ukraine or my battalion is not my work as a medic. It's what I do with a social media account.
Well, without your social media account, Brandon, how many generators did you purchase thanks to your social media?
100 diesel generators, 20 gasoline generators, about 150 radios. Those are about 167 radios, night vision. We're on about the better part of $400,000 a year now in supplies, but I document where it goes. There's been a lot of people who went to Ukraine with good intentions. I was talking to you about this the other day. When I started to get successful in show business is when I became comfortable in my success. And that meant being comfortable with money and not spending it. A lot of people, I think this is a tribute to shows and where I got into the business. When you run a business, it's not your money. Because the tax man don't care. When you take $50,000 at a good show, that's not time to go out and buy a new fur coat, because the tax man's going to want his money, and you're going to have to pay for the next one. The managing of a who's more unpredictable than our industry? Well, a lot of those things worked into a war quite well.
Yes, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So bobbing and weaving is what you did a lot of over there.
Oh, of course. Just like how we do outdoor shows and you can get rained out, but the show must go on. Like how your van breaks down on the way to a show, the show must go on.
Yeah.
The consequences in the war are quite a bit more great.
I don't want to dwell on this because I know you've been asked this question a million times, but you did. You drove over 2 landmines.
Yeah.
And you've suffered permanent damage in your right ear.
Yes.
What else happened as a result of that explosion?
I do have cognitive decline. I suffered a traumatic brain injury. I also had something for a while called blast lung. My capillaries would bleed. I spent a month in hospital, but that was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me, Larry.
In what way?
Well, I'm a showman. I had that recorded on my phone. And this is a sick thing, but this is how the war works. Because I would record my work every day, civilian evacuations particularly. I had what you call sensational content. News agencies bought it, syndicated it. I used it on my social media. I knew in the hospital when I got mentally well enough what that was worth because of the world we come from.
Sure.
And my stock went up in Ukraine. I was able to raise more money to buy more when I returned to work, there was a trust. I do have some problems because of that. But if you take me out of it, it was actually a good thing.
No regrets?
No regrets. No regrets at all. None.
What we went this morning. You invited me down. You had an interview with CBC.
Yes.
Tell us about what happened today, because tell everyone it was a great day. We got a tour of CBC Studios.
Cool.
And but what was that all about?
Well, we got a current mug, one for you, one for my Aunt Jennifer.
Yes.
This will go nice beside your ShowTalk. We went down to 205 Wellington to CBC headquarters, and we were met by Joanna, the producer, brought us upstairs. Got to see behind the scenes, where they film. You got the national, the current, the radio, and you were in the production room, and I was behind the glass with Matt Galloway. He's interviewed Obama.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm here to do my job for my battalion in Ukraine before I go back.
Yes.
But what an absolute pleasure that was. And personally, I wanted you there because you've worked with the shopping channel. You know about whether it's a live show or a televised one. You would appreciate it on a production level, but that's an experience that we have together as friends now. And
it was a great interview. The tour was great afterwards. We saw the sets for Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
Yeah, we saw a lot.
We went down to the cafeteria. We had Tim Hortons.
Yes.
Well, the CBC is taxpayer funded, right?
Yes.
So I'd just like to say there, if anybody knows the toilet seat there, it was a bit wobbly, so they want to get that fixed.
Yeah, if we could get that, we'll get people. They got to get people
State News Network.
Working on that.
Everything else was pretty good.
Everything else was pretty good. You've got now Friday night. We've got tickets for it. Yet we had actually had to go online.
Yes.
Because it was limited seating, and I believe it's sold out now.
Yes, it is.
And so we're going down. It's from 7 to 9. What's happening Friday night?
Well, St. Vlad's, big thanks to the Professor Matthew Light from the University of Toronto. He's been the driving force, doing a live presentation at St. Vladimir's, which is the Ukrainian Cultural Institute for Toronto, just to share my experience, but to share about the online aspect of the war and how people all over the world, whatever their position, who care about Ukraine, are doing things online to help us. It's a war I've never been to war before, but it's different than anything.
Yes.
People are helping from home, from their own houses.
Yes, and you can as well. And I'd like you to follow Brandon, if you will. Brandon, how can they find you? Well,
I do have an Instagram account, a Facebook, but the main bread and butter of the work, I'm unique for a lot of the volunteers who has a social media. I put in a lot of my spare time to my YouTube. So if you typed in Brandon Mitchell, Ukraine, I would be the top hit on there. Now I have a reasonable YouTube following, very supportive. And there's a lot of I think there's a lot of context there.
Yeah, there's a lot of context. The videos are, some of them are disturbing because when you're over there, you film, you got your camera rolling and he films some very touching stuff too. When you're going in to try to get people to safety that don't want to leave.
Yeah, with the civilians.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's sad to watch because you can see what are they called?
Babushkas.
Yeah, grandmothers. You can. I mean, the terror, the fact that they don't want to leave. I mean, they're literally clinging to what they have left, and to watch you try to convince them, and you do, to come with you to safety is, I really urge you to go to YouTube, Brandon Mitchell, Ukraine, Google that, and you're going to want to follow him, and you're going to want to help out as much as you possibly can. Would be great. Brandon, I'm supposed to ask you what you want for dinner tonight.
Yes, you gave me an option.
We went to the Keg last night, and both Brandon and I had the prime rib, medium rare, twice baked potato, and I think there was some green stuff too, vegetable, whatever it was. But anyway, what would you like? I think we're gonna have fish tonight.
Yes.
You have an option of salmon or rainbow trout. Have you ever had rainbow trout?
I've had rainbow trout. I like rainbow trout. I haven't had it in a lot of years, but I'm going to think about your dear wife, Norma. She had salmon at the Keg last
true
night.
enough, yes.
So I think for Norma's sake, we should have rainbow trout.
Yes, okay, very nice. Yes.
Could I just say before we end this, I've come a lot of ways in my life personally since we first met years ago. And I'm grateful for our friendship, but over the past year and a half in Ukraine, I have the appreciation of life now of well, a dying man, if you will. So I just want to thank you. I'm grateful for a lot of things, but really grateful for being here.
I'm grateful for you being here as well and taking this time. And thanks for thinking of me when you came to Toronto.
Well, it's a free place to stay.
It's a free place to stay. Don't get that word out there. It's not a free place to stay.
$5 water.
It's we make it on the condiments downstairs. We have chips. We normally put
I haven't touched the Pringles.
You haven't touched it. Well, that's where we make all our money. So I wish you would. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And remember, YouTube, Google Brandon Mitchell. That's 2 L's at the end.
Yes.
And Ukraine. Ukraine. And follow them. You'll be glad you did. And guys, have a yabba dabba doodad, a dabba doodad day.
Live long and prosper.